Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. Cody Delmendo, Ryan Herrera, and Jared Wyllys will join us, but we're starting off the show today with CHGO Bears beat reporter and noted accident haver at American Family Field. I don't mean to make it a joke, but I just can't help myself being myself. Nicholas Moriano joining us for the first few minutes of the show because I feel like everyone wants to ask us about the incident that happened on Saturday. Everyone knows we were there for the road trip. So hit the like button for Nick, hit the like button for us, hit the like button for Luke, who's not joining us today. Jared will join us here in a few minutes, but and we got all kinds of stuff to talk about today, but we're going to start with this. Nick, if you don't follow Nick on Twitter,
or any other socials, at Nicholas Moriano, I believe.
Yep. All right. You stuff. Tweeted a video of what the escalator looks like yesterday. I know you just tweeted your experience yesterday. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I recommend going to see it just to get an idea of just how serious it really was. And I think everyone realizes that by now. But you want to walk us through your experience on that? This is like the first CHGO Cubs event you came to, and unfortunately, this happens, man.
First CHGO Cubs event, first CHGO pod, and this is how you make your debut.
Yeah, what a way to make a debut here. But the vibes were high, you guys. The Cubs had won a game. We took our picture where our seats were at, and then we were all kind of just walking our way to exit, the ballpark and get back on the bus and continue the celebration. And there was a lot of people. There was definitely a lot of people, and a lot of these people are being funneled into the escalators, and, it would be like any other time you leave a major or a big event or whatever. And then when I'm about halfway down the escalator, there's like a jolt, or like it kind of like the whole mechanism kind of jerks. And then out of nowhere from the regular speed, it kind of consistently picks up and you're kind of going down. I guess the team put out, it was like 3 times the normal speed. If that's what 3 times feels like, then that's a hell of a pickup. But I've seen like videos on social media of escalators where they almost like bottom out and you can almost get sucked into that. So at one point I like got on the railing. I'm like, I'm going to jump off this thing. Like, I'm not going. This is not how I'm going to go. Like, this is not what's going to happen, because at the bottom there are people piling up and I'm seeing all that. And, Greg was a few escalator stairs ahead of me, and so at that point he's already on the ground and there's piled up people. But by the time I jumped up on the railing thinking I was going to jump off, I was already at the bottom. And then I'm on the ground, and then about 3 or 4 people are just on my legs, and I'm kind of holding myself up saying I'm good, my legs are good. Like, if people were just get off of me, I'll be fine. I just don't know the people that are on top of me, how they're doing. But then someone grabs my arms and drags me out. And then at that point, I'm kind of looking back, and, at that point, like, there's this elderly woman. You can hear the screams, and like, I'm someone who's really like, I get really squeamish when I see blood, and there was blood on the escalator too. So it was like, it was a whole scene. And, just people getting treatment. And like, at that point, I'm like, I thought I was fine. And then like right leg kind of starts to like tighten up, and I get looked at, and Greg Braggs gets looked at. We get taken down to go get treatment from the Brewers in like their medical I don't know, just a place where they do medical treatment on people. But yeah, it was crazy because just all of a sudden it just kind of happened. And like, again, that was my first thought, like, I'm gonna jump off this thing, but everything just happened so quickly, and then bodies are just constantly piling at the bottom.
I think I don't know, Gary asked it in the chat, and I'm sure people want to know, like, how are you feeling right now? couple days later.
Yeah, so I think I'm really fortunate because I'm doing fine.
You're sitting here.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I have a couple of bruises on my elbow and like my right leg, but nothing. I think I avoided like any like ligament damage because I don't feel anything. Like honestly, I feel fine. Initially, like the nurse that was looking at me, it's like it's gonna feel a lot worse on Sunday. I woke up that Sunday and I was like, okay, I'm feeling all right. But again, I was just one of the lucky ones because there was, when we were in that room with all the people that had the injuries, like there was maybe like a 17, 18-year-old kid who was bawling his eyes out, ankle was all wrapped, looked like it may have been broken. The elderly lady that was screaming, she was in one of the beds. There was a guy that was all bloodied up. And, you know, there I am, thankfully, just with minor injuries. But, like, it could have easily been way worse because who knows how someone could have just landed on my leg. It either could have broken, for whatever reason, it didn't. So I'm really thankful for that. And just hopefully, you know, thankfully there's also no, like, life-threatening injuries. So I was glad to, you know, hear that at least.
I do know, like, one of our diehards, he tweeted Saturday night, you know, from a bed with like a neck brace on and everything. And I was on the bus at the time when we saw it. All of us on the bus like saw it on social media, and it was just, I think that's when it fully hit me. Like I realized how serious it was when I saw Braggs get wheelchaired to the bus, and I knew that it was serious to begin with in general. But like when I'm seeing someone who came to our event like on a hospital bed with a neck brace on, it's just like we had such a great time for it to be such a damper like the end like that. Whether the Cubs are good or bad, whether you care if they're, you know, all this other stuff, all this sports stuff, like we're talking about lives here, man. Like it's like, to me, that's the biggest like damper on the entire thing. Is just like we were responsible for these people who came to our event, and then like for this to happen, it's not our fault. Like it's the Brewers' fault because their ballpark needs some massive renovations. But like it's just like, to me, that's like the biggest thing because again, it was such a good day just for one day to be able to go and hang out with the people who support us, like the Cubs, and want to watch a baseball game at, you know, up in Milwaukee, and just sucks the way that it ended.
Yeah, and like you said, it's good that it sounds like they avoided very, very bad things in this incident, but it's obviously like, you know, people were hurt. Some people went to the hospital. You know, some people had to be checked out at the facility and stuff like that. And it's, you know, I know you said you're physically feeling okay, but like mentally, like that is a traumatic kind of event. Like, how are you doing mentally after that a couple days later, you know?
I mean, I think I'm good. You know, like I've asked myself the question, like, okay, you're gonna get on escalators again, and like realistically, yes, but you know, Greg was just on our CHGO Bear show. We were talking about like when it gets to that point where there's a lot of people, I honestly think that, you know, I'll start questioning that. And you know, I'm someone who naturally I like taking the stairs or ramps or whatever, so that's only more of an incentive to do that. Because like at that point, I don't know, it's just not even worth it.
And you took the ramp, right?
I took the ramp, and the thing was, I don't remember who was holding the Wrigley North sign. I want to say it was Emma's boyfriend was holding the Wrigley North sign on their way. She's nodding her head yes. And I saw like him holding it up as we were walking on the concourse. And I was like, all right, I'm going to follow that sign, because I was way behind, because we took the picture, and then I was like one of the last people to leave like our section and get down to the concourse. And I saw the sign, and then just like with the amount of people, you know how people are trying to rush out of this place after a game or whatever. And suddenly he just like disappeared. And I was just like, fuck it, I'll take the ramp. And like, thank God, just my fuck it mentality decided to kick in. And like, that's what happened. Like I took the ramp, and I get down, and Corey calls me and Luke calls me separately. And they're like, were you on the escalator? And I'm like, no. And then they tell me the situation. I'm like, what? Yeah. And so it was definitely a shock for me once I learned. And then no one was with me. I spent like a good 15 minutes trying to find my way back to the bus, and
trying to find everyone else.
I get there, and then like there's diehards there, and I think Carm and a few other people. I think Patrick was there, but like no one else, and everyone was just kind of up in arms about like what's going on. like people had kind of heard but didn't know.
Yeah, well, I know me and Jared were both. So we got to hang out with you guys for a sec outside of the bus before the game, but like obviously we were doing post game duties, covering the Cubs. The Cubs had just won a game. Like Justin Steele had his display of emotion, we'll call it. And so me and Jared didn't know it happened until basically the Brewers released their statement. And when someone read it in the press box, it kind of felt like just the way it read just felt like that sucks. Like that's not, it sounds bad, but it didn't like hit until someone else had pointed out Braggs' tweet saying that, CHGO people were on the escalator. I don't want to make it seem like I wasn't thinking about people if CHGO wasn't. It's just like, that's when it hit for me. Like, when reading Braggs' tweet, like, this is a lot more serious than I initially thought. And then Luke calls me right after that and kind of gives me the details because he was right there and saw it. And I'm like, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. And like we said, fortunately, it seems like it could have gone a lot worse for a lot of people, and it didn't, and that's a good thing. But yeah, it was an event that like once it really sunk in of like what just happened, it's like this is pretty bad.
Yeah, I think in closing, like just happy that obviously nothing like. I think Braggs is the one, at least for us, that got it the worst. But then the guy that I mentioned, he's at Dagger, Chicago, I believe. He goes by the name of Wylie. If you add him on Twitter, like send your thoughts. Because like I don't have an update on him. I hope he's okay. I just feel insanely awful for him to come to one of our events. The first time I've seen him at one of our events. And something like that happened.
Yeah, the thoughts for him, obviously for him and anyone that was involved in it, like whether you seriously hurt or not, like it's mentally, physically, thoughts for everyone involved in that. But thanks Nick for hopping on with us.
Appreciate you guys for having me on.
Hopefully you're coming back on whenever something else is. It's a lot better.
Escalators not attacking people.
Maybe you're at Wrigley sometime and you catch a ball and we'll be like, how was that?
Yeah, that was way better.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah, we appreciate you hopping in with us and giving us your perspective because I'm sure some of our viewers wanted to know kind of what happened.
No problem, you guys. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Adios.
Catch you later, Nick. We'll switch Nick in with Jared now.
Jared's coming in. Law's giving me the sign that we need to read some ads. So I am going to start that by telling y'all that this weekend, despite the fact that the Cubs decided to hurt me, I did win some money on Circa. So that's the good news. All right. Tight money line splits. You can get I know Patrick bet on the Cubs on Saturday. Got him at really good odds at Circa. All right.
There you go.
Circa. Those tight money line splits, I tell you. Games strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use -115 or -120 splits. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. They don't limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available as well, so you can compare the lines from each sports book. Then finally, the customer service is awesome because they don't use chatbots. You talk to real people at their sports book and resort and casino in Las Vegas. All the people ran from all those people there at their actual sports book there. So they're really fast, and they fix your problems quicker than those chatbots ever will. I promise you. All right, so download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. They're with us for every Cubs Friday 120 Club. We got one coming up this Friday. Who knows? Don't let me talk myself into sweeping the Phillies. I won't, but don't let me talk myself into it. But if they somehow do, because baseball is weird and chaos happens, then Friday 120 Club will be awesome on Friday. At least there will be some real delusion in thinking that we're back. I'm hoping in some small, messed up, sick mind of mine that is going to happen, all right?
There will almost certainly be no escalator incident.
No escalator incidents at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, right? So if you or someone you may know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
And, obviously we're talking about the incident happened at American Family Field. Previously was known with a name of a different beer. But if they really want to name themselves after a great beer.
What a great segue that was.
They have to. They have to go with what Luke's called Blue Moon Ballpark, because Blue Moon is the best beer out there.
Yeah.
Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. It's the natural choice for opening day and all season long. You know, whenever I'm not at the ballpark and we're in here, when the Cubs are on the road, you know, I always like to crack an ice cold Blue Moon. I was sitting on the couch watching some Cubs baseball. New baseball season deserves a bold, unique beer. From its refreshing flavor with Valencia orange peel for a subtle sweetness and hints of coriander, Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale is a one-of-a-kind beer that's made brighter. Carefully crafted and full-flavored with refreshing notes and a smooth, creamy finish, Blue Moon was brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia and get you excited for the new season. Blue Moon is not just another beer, it's a whole different experience. Why strike out with the same old beer when you can get something one of a kind? Its bold flavor, bright explosion of color, and iconic orange slice ritual guarantee a one-of-a-kind beer experience perfect for spring and or summer weather. Best served with its signature orange garnish to showcase its beautiful hazy color. A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
We got a super chat from our good friend Fernando, $1.99. Thank you, Fernando. Glad to see you guys are okay. How is Braggs? Well, he did the Bears show today, so
yeah,
I think for the most part he's fine.
Well, he did. Yeah, he's at home on the mend, but go check out that show if you want to.
He's on the mend, but yeah, he definitely goes into detail on everything. So
exactly, yeah. And I have to give him a lot of credit for being open and honest about a lot of it too. I'll say, like, in closing with this situation, because obviously we got to talk about this team. I got a lot to bitch about this team, but as far to end this conversation, like, Miller Park, American Family Field, Wrigley North, whatever you want to call it, it's needed renovations forever. Like, there's a whole story about how it basically took them forever to, like, get these the things that to get the money, the funding or whatever to get this to happen. And I don't know, man, like, you shouldn't have that problem. The escalator.
It's an unfortunate situation that, you know, I don't know if it could have been prevented, but like definitely is.
I'll say
it's definitely something where they need to figure out how to prevent it in the future.
I think what Braggs said in his tweet about how there was no one like standing at the escalator to make sure there weren't too many people on it, I think is fair to say. They have it at the United Center. Every time I go to the United Center, I sit in the 300 section all the time. They have someone standing at the escalators.
Yeah, and I don't want.
And I never knew why, but that has to be.
Well, I don't want to speculate that that's the reason why it broke. Like, it may not have been. You know, like there's too many people. I don't want to speculate that it is, but it's a possibility.
Sure.
Just because there are weight limits or whatever, it's possible. I don't want to say that is the reason, but it's possible.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's a, like you said, unfortunate situation. Yeah. It sucks, and I hope everyone feels better in the coming days. So
thoughts are with everyone that was involved in it for sure.
All right. So the Chicago Cubs, another series loss, another road loss. They haven't won a road series since they went to Pittsburgh back in May, and if I remember correctly, that is the series that Paul Skeens made his major league debut, and for 3 to 4 whole days, I got to make the joke about how he had a 6.75 earned run average. That is the last time the Chicago Cubs won a road series. I'm pretty sure. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
So. Yeah, I think you're right.
I am sick. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, man.
They also haven't won 3 straight games since April 26th, so that makes you feel.
Add that on.
If that makes you feel any better.
Salt for that one.
I am just so fed up. We're going to talk about Justin Steele. Like, Corey and Brennan talked about Justin Steele and the whole everything that happened in the dugout on Saturday at that game and everything. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We have audio of Jed talking. But, like, I'm so, again, I've said this 1,000 times, exhausted. And I'm just just when the one time, finally, it feels like maybe this team could turn it around, show some life. And for 3.5 innings yesterday, I felt like they did, because not only did they get an early lead, but they didn't give it away right away like they have been until the fourth inning, of course. But I'm so exhausted and just disappointed about this organization to be 7 games under 500 on July 1st, coming off a year where you honestly should have made the playoffs, but you didn't for various reasons that we talked about, and go into a year with more expectations during this era of this front office, and to be in a position now where we legitimately should talk about selling, at least talk about the idea of it. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I personally can't think of a more disappointing Cubs season in the last 10 years. 2014, the expectations weren't high. You knew they were on the come up with the prospects that they had coming up. 2015, they went to the ALCS. No one expected them to. Won the World Series in 2016. Went to the ALCS in 2017 and they were, and then 2018, they had high expectations to be good. Did they fall short? Yes, but they still won 95 games. 2019, big disappointment for sure. They had high expectations. They still won 84 games, and there's plenty of reasons why that season was a failure. But they still won 84 games.
Yeah. I think that's the one that rivals it, 19.
Probably.
This is going back a little farther. I don't remember their record that year off the top of my head, but like the 2004 Cubs would be another example where you're coming right off of that 03, which that's there's a lot of layers to that playoff series that we don't need to get into, but like that season I know was a pretty big letdown, and I think that's a part of the problem of what Cubs fans are experiencing this year is the 2023 season felt like we saw a little, we had our rebuild for a couple seasons, and then it was like, okay, you didn't make the playoffs, but you're within one game of a wild card spot. You could kind of see that, all right, it's right there. So the expectations were different. They hired, the huge manager hire to kick off the offseason. Expectations were naturally going to be raised, and then to see them instead go like plummeting the other direction, I think that's a big part of what being 7 games below 500 is going to drive you nuts no matter when it happens, but especially so.
Well, to finish it out, 2020, I think a lot of people knew the writing was on the wall in 2020, and if the pandemic doesn't happen, I think this quote-unquote rebuild I was told wasn't going to be a rebuild probably gets kickstarted earlier. That's just the theory. We'll never know. So whatever, they win the division of a 60-game season, no one really counts it. 2021, that's basically when the writing's on the wall, especially when they traded Yu Darvish. Delusional me thought that maybe if they replaced him with someone competent, that maybe they wouldn't. Instead of signing someone like Taijuan Walker like I wanted, they signed Jake Arrieta. And I try to forget that era of Jake Arrieta. 2022, obviously, low expectations. Last year, low expectations, but actually exceeded them. But whatever. I feel like as much as what happened in September, you still felt like they were moving in the right direction if they were to improve the roster going into this year. And they improved it some, but in my opinion, they didn't improve it enough. And that is why I'm sitting here on July 1st of 2024 thinking about, man, this really is the most disappointing season of the last 10 years.
Easily,
because they're just, I don't like, 2019 probably is the one season that rivals it, just based off what the roster was
last 10 years
at. It has to be the one that rivals it the most. But I do feel like when you go into 2019, that offseason, they signed Daniel Descalso. And they didn't sign Craig Kimbrell until like June, and that was because Ben Zobrist went on the paternity list or whatever it was.
You're already feeling pretty disappointed going into that season.
Right. Like you knew that they were going to be mid. And I think the discourse and the frustration was more so about ownership than anything else that year. This year, I think everyone's disappointed with the roster. Everyone's disappointed with Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins. And we are all sitting here, from a fan perspective, I feel like we're all sitting here thinking we are stuck in the land of mid, or just not moving forward at the very least, for what feels like could be another year or two after this year. Unless things drastically change, guys increase value, you're able to move some guys, something in the next month. And maybe this entire thing's turned around more so for the future, not necessarily talking this year, but like that's how it feels from a fan perspective. Right now, I just feel like we are in a black hole. Well, and like it's not supposed to be this way right now in year 4 of this era.
Right. Yeah, I know we'll get into more of that and our main topic of like selling and potentially selling at the trade deadline. I do want to talk to finish out like a little bit of the weekend recap. You mentioned Steele. I know Corey and Brendan talked a lot about it, and the idea that like during this stretch the Cubs just didn't have any edginess or fire or whatever it is, and so Jed Hoyer talked Friday, pregame before the series started. He talked Friday and was asked about basically that, like, do you have edgy players? Do you have edginess on this team, fire on this team? And so I want to bring that up. Here's his response. We're about to play it right now, but then we'll discuss it a little bit.
I don't think we have a lot of edgy players. I think we have a very hard-working, diligent group. So that is true. I mean, in my career, I will say, like, whenever a team is struggling offensively, the natural thing that everyone talks about is the team is flat, they lack an edge, they lack fire. Like, you just can't have fire when you're making a right turn and going into the dugout all the time. It's like, and so I feel like I hear it all the time, and I understand it, and you feel it emotionally. But I always try to just tell myself, like, yeah, this is every big slump that I've ever been around. It's like everyone's started asking if the team is flat. The team, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, like, it's almost counterintuitive that I do think that, like, you know, I think there's like a tension. There's a real, there's like such a desire to break through and to get those hits. And I think, you know, sometimes I always feel like I can feel the tension through the screen if I'm watching at home, if we're on the road or something. That, you know, I do think it's almost the opposite. You know, that these guys do care so much. They're super frustrated by the fact that, like, you know, especially situationally, we haven't been coming through. So do I think we lack an edge? Do I think we lack fire and energy? No, I think we're struggling offensively. Do I think that it's an observation that we don't have a lot of edgy players, so to speak? I think that's fair.
I think this, just to start, I would agree with the notion that anytime, and Craig Counsell talked about this, I think it was Saturday morning.
Yeah.
That, like, it was kind of asked the same question, and that, like, the notion that when a team doesn't have fire, they're not edgy, whatever, like, you do hear that for any team that's slumping. Obviously, this is longer than a slump, but like any team that's going through a stretch where they're not hitting well and not playing well, playing bad baseball, you do hear that all the time. Like, this team doesn't have any fire, this team doesn't have any edge. And so the notion that, like, it is a little hard to have fire when you are just constantly going right back into the dugout. It's fair. It's a fair point to make from Jed and Craig, obviously, as well, that when you are just slumping and struggling, it's hard to just show a bunch of fire if you're just not playing well. I think that's a fair point.
And it's also something, I think, when you're watching a team that's losing, you're looking harder for it. But if, you know, let's say we flip this and the Cubs are doing really well this season, we might all be talking about how even keel they are, and they're just, they're not letting any of it get to them and not getting rattled by situations or whatever. You'd be praising them for how calm they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's something we look harder for when a team's doing poorly, but it's also why I think what Justin Steele did on Saturday was, in a way, I mean, I know he's not shocking. Yeah, it was, because you had not seen anything like that from them all season long. And in a way, even as a reporter, it was kind of refreshing. Yeah. And I can see why fans would watch that and think, like, there it is, finally. This is what we've been looking for. But it's also the kind of thing that, unless they actually do go on to start winning, nobody's going to remember that happened.
It's not going to be the rallying cry,
right?
So to speak.
Yeah. Like, if they end up going, if they're 8 games over in July, then we're going to look back and be like, remember the Justin Steele thing? It's kind of like when people were tweeting out the video of Lou Piniella from 2007. Yeah, we can look back on that because they did go on to win. So it's, who knows? I mean, time will tell.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say too, like, did David Ross ever do anything like that last year? Like, the most memorable thing I can think of David Ross when it came to, like, being fiery was at the very end of the year, where he I don't even think he did it on purpose. What he said something about how like they're supposed to beat this particular team.
Oh, the Pirates.
It was the Pirates.
Yeah.
Like
he said we lost to like a bad team or something like
Yes.
that, and that got back to the Pirates. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then eventually ended up hurting them because they lost the last series of the Pirates of the season. Whatever. I'm not trying to bring up PTSD for people, but it's not that I don't believe in that type of stuff or do believe in it. It's just like there have been many times I feel like where Craig could have gone out there and argued with the umpire to stick up for his guy, just to be there for his guy, you know, and he hasn't done that. He's a very even keel guy.
Yeah.
And it worked in Milwaukee, you know.
And I think that has its benefits. Well, like Jared said, if things are going really well, like it still has its benefits that he's an even keel guy because he's never going to get too high or too low as the manager. And I do think it has its benefits in that way. I get where you're coming from. Is like you just want to like whether it's Justin Steele or Craig Counsell, whoever, like seeing some fire from the team is like is different. Is what maybe it was needed. I don't know.
Yeah, because it is easy to watch and for it to look like these guys don't care.
Yeah,
it can come across that way pretty easily, even though they're doing their jobs and there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't see. But yeah, if you're a fan watching on TV, watching at the game, and this is what you're seeing. Yeah, I can completely understand why it would look to you like they don't care.
And I don't blame Justin for reacting the way he did. I mean, that inning was awful defensively.
Yeah.
It was awful.
It was an unexplainable inning that I just said. We were just sitting there like, what is going on?
I know.
Like, what's happening?
I felt like I was watching a bunch of 10-year-olds play baseball for an inning.
Yeah, but it's and then like Steele post game apologized. I don't think he apologized for reacting the way he did, but I don't think he apologized for like getting after the team, but I think he reacted in the way, or he was apologizing for the way he did it, where he's on camera, swearing, screaming, that kind of stuff, and that's when we talked about last week about those kind of things seeming to be more like in house. I'm not saying I know Justin Steele screams at the team in the clubhouse when the cameras aren't in there, but in a way, there are probably things we obviously don't know about that have happened. Keep in house with the team, happen in the clubhouse. That again, but we just don't see publicly because they're not doing it publicly. But there probably are times where they're getting after each other in the clubhouse. And like Jared said, I don't watch this team and think they don't care. I just think they're in a 2-month stretch where they're just not playing. They're not playing good baseball, or at the very least, just aren't consistent when they do.
Right. Well, the good news, guys, is I can wear my Shady Rays while I watch this team the rest of the year because it helps shade my pain, or it helps keeping my pain away from all of you.
Look at this guy right here. Shady
you look at Jared, and he just looks significantly better. Like, I know he's a reporter. He's a reporter and all this, but, like, I know deep down he wants the Cubs to win because that means better stories are going to come out for him to write about. And so he puts on his Shady Rays to hide his pain of having to watch this team too, in some ways, right? Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style that's in your favorite team's colors. I got some that have like the blue. It's like a mixture of blue and green, I guess you could explain it as that. I wear mine every day when I ride my electric bike into this place. I wear them every time I go to Wrigley Field. I was wearing them at Wrigley North on Saturday. They're great sunglasses. You get you have your version, I have my version, that bigger frames. They're
great stuff.
And the thing is that like they're not that expensive but high quality in my opinion for sunglasses, right? So I definitely recommend it. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
You know what else is great? I lost a pair of Shady Rays. You know what they do when you lose a pair? They send you a new one.
They send you a new one. Yeah.
So Yeah,
I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, it's
I was just thinking about that
thing,
because it was like a week or so ago. I left them in the Wrigley Field press box.
Couldn't find them. He asked me to look for them. I couldn't find them.
I was texting people. I'm like, hey, can you look for these? They're Shady Rays.
I thought I saw Paul Sullivan wearing some new Shady Rays.
Yeah. You know what? Come to think of it, he was wearing a new pair of sunglasses. But yeah, they sent you a new pair. If you lose or break them, it's pretty great.
That's awesome. So it's like we're hitting July now. We're in July 1st. We're hitting July, the hottest part, the sunniest part of summer. And you obviously need your Shady Rays, but when it's getting this hot, you're going to need some Mando. Mando whole body deodorant will have you smelling great all summer. Mando's array of odor controlling solutions ensures you'll be fresh from head to toe. The solid stick and invisible cream tube control odor for 72 hours, but you can start odor control in the shower with the 4-in-1 cleansing bar and acidified body wash, which helps stop odor before it even starts. The best part is they all fit in your carry-on. All the liquids in the starter pack are under 3.4 ounces, and with the deodorant wipes, you can freshen up on the go. That's actually good to know for when I go to Vegas next month. I can bring my Mando with me. I don't have to worry about it. Not
Vegas in July or August. August, you're really going to need it.
Really going to need it. So, like, I can bring
it. Was 110 degrees there on Thursday.
There you go. So, I won't need to worry about it because I'll be able to bring my Mando. So, back to Mando. Yeah. Mando, I know, Cody, you've been to a bunch of Friday 120 clubs. Mm-hmm. Braggs is there, shirt off, in the sun. I mean, he's using Mando. Is it working? Is he?
Thank God it
good
is.
At least.
Thank God it is.
Imagine if he didn't have it.
Exactly. Like, it was hot on Saturday. It was super humid. Like, everyone was wearing Mando because I didn't smell anyone. All right. Especially Braggs, thank God.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's personally what I like the most about Mando is it keeps Braggs smelling fresh. Mando, whole body deodorant. Mando is seriously safe to use anywhere on your body, in your pits, the packages, belly buttons, butt cracks, stinky crevices, stomach folds, and feet. You can use it wherever. Still smells good. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's Grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. They have a discount code to help you get hooked on their favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with the exclusive code CHGO. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHGO at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Link in the description below.
How do we feel about a company deciding to use the word Grundle in ad copy? I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in ad copy in my life. Like, why would you do that?
Grundle. I'd never heard the word before.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
I'd never heard the word before.
It's ridiculous. Like, oh, you guys are edgy. Cool.
I got distracted by butt cracks. So
same. So we were just talking about, like, do the Cubs have any edgy players? We're talking about Justin Steele and all this. Now we've got to the point everyone has been waiting for, because we're all just hurt right now. How would Jed define making hard decisions in July? He talked about that.
Yeah,
the other day. You got the audio. We're gonna play that here, and then we'll talk about the rest of all of that stuff coming up. So let's go ahead and play it.
I think the way I would define it is, like, when I look at last year, it wasn't just a purely emotional thing, and it was very much based on playoff odds and where we were and how we felt about the team, and so there's some art to that. There's some real science, like, okay, where are we and what decisions are we going to make? And I really don't like I said, we're still in June. I really don't want to go there, but it's like you ask the question of, like, there is a point at which we have to do that, but like I still feel like again, for a third of the season we hit, for 2/3 of the season we haven't, and I believe that that can come around. I think that we do need to keep grinding and finding different arms for the bullpen. We need to get some guys healthy, honestly, and get some guys back. I think that will go a long way. But yeah, I think all those are things that we're talking about all the time. But I don't think it's time yet for that. full conversation, but it's just a reality that we have to play better in July. You know, we backed ourselves into a little corner.
So, Ryan, what is your take on what Jed said there?
I mean, my take is that, like, selling is not off the table for this team. Whether, you know, the extent of selling, obviously that may vary, but, like, at the very least, not adding at the trade deadline is definitely not off the table. Where, you know, going into the season at the end of April, we sat here and definitely, like, looked at it as like, oh, you know, Cubs are in good position to make a run in after the trade deadline, get some additions in there, be a better team, and go and try to make a run for the playoffs. Like, I think we felt that when April 26th they were 17-9, and then even in, like, May, like, obviously May looked awful, but there were still points where they were like, you know, they're still in wild card position. They just need to turn around and get there, and they'll buy. And maybe that was being in denial, because, like, now they're at the point where Jed's talking and saying he's not ruling it out. He's not ruling out selling. He's basically saying, like, he's not ready to have the full conversation about, like, are you sellers? But he is saying this team needs to play better in July. It basically is. Like, the message is we got to play better in July, or else we're putting ourselves in a bad position to even try to add at the deadline.
And not just play better, but, like, a lot better. Because back in May, I think most people would say, oh, maybe if they just at least tread water or kind of keep this close, then you can add at the trade deadline and then work on leapfrogging your way into a wild card spot, or even better. But now you're talking about, like, you have to have one of the best months this team has had in ages in order to not be having serious conversations about selling.
I would say they need to have a month like they did in April when they went, I
think they were
18-12. 17-9 if you don't count March, I guess, something like that. And I think what's disappointing is that they just really threw away the easy schedule they had in June. You know, to not play well against the Mets, you won a series against the Giants, but you went to their park and lost 3 or 4.
Right.
And you honestly should have at least split that series. All right. You've won one divisional series all season. I'm pretty sure. This is me thinking. I think that's correct. All right. And this division sucks. If it doesn't suck, it's mid. And the Cubs are better than who? The Marlins and the Rockies? A $230 million payroll, and those are the teams you're better than? It's an absolute joke, dude. I'm sorry for saying it again. Like, I've said this like 7 times now.
You say it every show.
It's an absolute joke that's who they're better than. And I'm going to continue to say that I'm not going to wave the white flag until they get to 10 under. But that could easily be in the next 3 days, because they get to play the best team in the National League this week at beautiful historic Wrigley Field.
No Schwarber or no Harper does not mean that they should be favored in this series.
It's not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch.
And this is where I currently sit on the idea of selling right now. Is you can sell, but anyone who has the idea that they're going to try to sell like they did in 2022 or the trade deadline of 2021, that's just not how it works, man. That's also Jed Hoyer's fault for how this roster was put together. And I'm not going back in hindsight and saying that this was a bad decision. This was a bad decision. And when I say bad decisions, like, I still support re-signing or extending Ian Happ. I'm glad they brought Cody Bellinger back. Mm-hmm. My whole thing is that, again, like I said in the last segment, the fact that they didn't do enough this past offseason to make this team more of a true contender and not go into this season with the projection of winning anywhere from 83 to 85 games, where things could either go really bad, like we've seen, or they could go really good and win 90 games like Luke predicted. Like, that, like, if you put a team together that's projected to win 90-plus games, there's some variance there.
Yeah,
there's a way
you've created a buffer for yourself.
Yes, but They didn't do that, man.
And now you're going through the roller coaster.
And I think exactly. I believe it was Corey who said it before the season started, that you needed to have built a roster that was projected to win 90 plus games.
Corey was definitely the one that was. I think we all believed that, but like it's like Corey was really the one harping on that. Where it's like that might have been your mistake in the offseason.
Right. So here we are. Yeah. Because Cody, you're right. Like this is not a roster that was built for that, and now we're seeing the bad end of the spectrum where if things do kind of everything does go poorly, that's what we're looking at right now.
Right. And so to go back on my point about like certain players, like I think guys that they can move, and I said this in my Twitter space yesterday that I did, like Nico Horner is a guy that I think they can move and get decent value back. If they're as high on Matt Shaw as it feels, that opens up for a guy like Matt Shaw. I'll just use this scenario as an example. While you can trade Nico Horner, which will then open up a spot for Matt Shaw, I don't want you to trade Nico Horner for the sake of trading Nico Horner to give Matt Shaw an opportunity. If you're not going to get a good deal for Nico Horner, you don't do it. And I will say that about a bunch of other guys too. You can't just trade guys for the sake of trading guys to give a prospect an opportunity. Because as much as I'm high on Matt Shaw and as much as I'm high on Owen Casey and Moises Ballesteros and, whatever little hope I still have left for Alexander Canario, trading guys for the sake of just trading guys to open up a spot for a guy is the wrong – that will honestly make things even worse than they already are, in my opinion.
I wanted to close out on the last one because it sounds like we're going on to the next point, the next topic.
Sorry.
The Cubs are in position where, like I said, they have to be better in July, as Jed said, as we all keep saying. Yeah. Last year was the same boat, and Jed basically laid out – he didn't give like an exact criteria, but he basically laid out like these guys got to make up ground in the division and got to make up ground on 500 for them to like avoid selling. That's basically what he said. The division's kind of out of like I don't see any way the Cubs really come back and make this division race a race because they're so far back of the Brewers now. But they're 5 games out of the wild card right now. They're 7 games below 500. If the criteria is similar still, that's just what they have to do in July is just make up ground or even overtake the teams ahead of you in the wild card and get as close to 500, if not over, as possible for him to think about.
To me, they got to get to the All-Star break somewhere between 500 and 3 games under. If you're there and then you start the second half on a decent path,
I think you're right there.
You can be in a spot to not even necessarily buy, like going all in, but like do basically what you did last year, in which I don't know if like that's even a good idea either. Again, a lot of things will have to happen for that all to happen or for that scenario to play out. But yeah, man, like it's a tough situation from a fan perspective right now to even want that to happen because we watched what happened last year.
Right.
And I can't fault fans who are already like, we got to sell, like the season's over, and try and move whatever assets that you can move. I don't blame fans for wanting to have that mentality and think that way. That all said, though, Theo Epstein said it. Every season is sacred. And if this team messes around and finds themselves close to 500 at the All-Star break and can start the second half on a decent path, I don't hate the idea of it at the very least staying pat and maybe add a few relievers.
Because I think what I would want to see them do is look for whatever moves you make at the deadline, be looking beyond this season. Because I don't know how realistic it is that you can salvage this season, but I think you can set yourself up so that 2025 is not yet another rebuilding year. Because, if you want to sell at the trade deadline, then is everybody ready to be, basically do what the White Sox are doing right now? Just look to what's happening on the South Side. They had a couple of seasons of thinking they were right there, and now look at how things are going there. So it's not the exact same situation, but I do think we're going to start selling everybody off at the deadline. Get ready for even worse baseball for another year or so. So I'd like to see them like it's you can trade some guys, you can add some people, but maybe you're taking a longer view toward we've assessed what our needs are. Let's work on setting ourselves up for 25.
We got a few. Well, Ryan wrote a diehard mailbag. It was a mailbag that for diehards only. He put it out on Friday. We took a few questions from it. We're going to do them in the next segment. But first, Jared, you want to tell us about Cuts Clothing?
I would love to. So, Cuts Clothing, get ready to be the most stylish of your crew this summer with Cuts. Most guys would wear a t-shirt every day of their lives if they could. I'm one of those guys. The problem is that most t-shirts are not acceptable to wear at work or out on a hot date night. Today's sponsor, Cuts, has finally changed that. Cuts t-shirts are such high quality, wrinkle-free, and so buttery soft that you can look like you're dressing up even when you're dressing down. Yeah, you heard that right, wrinkle-free. You never have to substitute comfort for fashion ever again. Dive into summer with Cuts. For a limited time, you can save money on Michael Chandler's favorite clothing company by heading to cutsclothing.com and use code CHGO for 20% off. Not only has Cuts completely changed the t-shirt game, they have tons of other simple yet sophisticated items. So if you're not looking for t-shirts, maybe you want some joggers. Their bottoms stretch to fit joggers look way better than your khakis and are 1,000 times more comfortable. All of their clothing is as comfortable as athleisure, but fashionable enough to wear to work or backyard barbecues. Best part, Cuts Clothing is built to last. Their durable construction means you'll be enjoying your favorite shirts and pants for years to come, making them a smart investment for your wardrobe. So embrace the summer state of mind with Cuts. For a limited time, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code CHGO at checkout. That's 20% off your order at cutsclothing.com with promo code CHGO. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Experience the perfect blend of style and comfort with Cuts Clothing.
Yeah, Cuts is awesome. Their founder and CEO follows me on LinkedIn. Great dude. The more you know.
There you go.
We got a couple of super chats. Then we'll go into all the rest of the stuff. Let's start with Ben, $4.99. Thank you again, Ben. I know you came to our Friday 120 club
appreciate you,
like
Ben.
a month ago. He says Council had Pat Murphy to lay into the players when they slack off. We need that here. Council is the brain. We need the brawn. I mean, I think that kind of goes in with what we were talking about with like edgy players and being fiery or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
It doesn't always have to be a bench coach. Sometimes it's a veteran player who
Pat Murphy's getting a ton of credit for the Brewers' success this year. And I think rightfully so. Like, they're one of the best teams in the National League. At the same time, though, you look at their roster. You look at their pitching staff. Even though they don't have Corbin Burns or Brandon Woodruff, they develop well.
Yeah,
and like that's what makes me want to pull my hair out. It's just like every year there's someone new. This year it's Joey Ortiz who came back in the Corbin Burns trade, right? And the pitcher that came back in that trade too, he's had success with them. William Contreras, of course, is having an MVP caliber season. Christian Yelich is having his best offensive season probably since, the late 2010s when he was an MVP caliber player. And then Bryce Terang, who hit the grand slam yesterday. I mean, he is one of the better second basemen in baseball. They have developed him into not only an elite defensive second baseman, but I mean, he slugged the ball out of the park yesterday.
Yeah, they have good veterans, good young players all throughout that.
And coming into this year, the one thing that I said about the Brewers is that I thought their offense was going to be better than what we've seen over the last 6 years, and that has played out. Their pitching is what surprised me. No Devin Williams, no Corbin Burns, no Brandon Woodruff, and they just, they just pieced it together. And it's incredibly frustrating as a fan because it doesn't make sense. Does Pat Murphy deserve some credit for that? Sure. Do we always give managers too much credit when teams are good? Yeah. And when teams are losing, we blame the manager for everything. It's
part of the job. Yeah.
I think when it comes to that stuff, it is like I just put my hands up and I'm like, I just think they have a good team.
A good manager is only as good as his team.
Right.
Good organization.
Because Craig Counsell was great with the Brewers. And, I do think that overall, I still think that them hiring him and firing David Ross is the right move. Philosophically, I think I like Craig Counsell more than David Ross. I know people aren't going to agree with me on that, but that's just how I feel. So, anyway, we have a few diehard things from that mailbag that I mentioned, but also Ryan reminded me during the break, the segment we were going to do here at the end, one realistic trade that we would do if you were Jed Hoyer. So I guess we can all go down the line if you guys want to start.
I was saying, I think we're talking about it in the view of selling at the trade deadline. Yeah. See, that for me, that stuff's always tough because, especially it's July 1st, there are definitely some teams that are still in the gray area between buying and selling, and you just don't know what teams want or what the Cubs want for whatever they may be selling or what other teams may be willing to give up, especially at this point in the year. So I kind of took it and looked at it as who are realistic guys the Cubs could trade this year instead of trades that the overall trades is who are guys they could actually trade this year, because the roster's not really set up to be full sell mode, whether it's guys that are underperforming this year, longer term, bigger money contracts, no trade clauses. They have that throughout the roster. So it's going to be harder to do a complete sell off. But as far as for me, the way I choose to answer this question, I think the main realistic trade option the Cubs have is Cody Bellinger, because he has the opt-outs after this year. So it is, in a way, a 1-year guaranteed contract. Right. So it could be seen as a rental bat. Teams may, whatever it is. I don't know that he completely fits into this team's plans long term, which is also part of the reason why they gave him a shorter term deal. They were looking to give him a shorter term deal. PCA is going to be their center fielder, and offensively still trying to get there, but defensively, base running looks exactly as advertised. Michael Busch has been having a good year over at first base. And then you got Seiya and Ian Happ locked in the corners. I think if the Cubs go down the road of selling, Bellinger is probably the most realistic chip that they could be throwing out there. I mean, we've already seen, I know The Athletic reported the other day that someone like the Yankees has been a little bit more of a scouting presence around the Cubs lately. And they're kind of set in the outfield, but Rizzo's hurt, and I think he's out till August, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
And he hasn't been good anyway.
First base help.
Yeah. So if you're looking for first base help, that could be an option. And they were interested in Bellinger last year. He's not having the same
season.
The same season that he had in 2023, but it's still a potential. It still would be a potential option to go in there with the Yankees and provide some more production and not necessarily be. Whereas on the Cubs team, he is the guy they need to pick it up and slug more and drive more runs and that kind of stuff. He wouldn't necessarily need to be that guy with the Yankees because they have Judge and Juan Soto right there.
They're not looking for that from him. He doesn't have to shoulder that load by himself.
So
I think in a way this season he's having might incentivize the Cubs to want to trade him, because is he going to decide that he has a player option for $27.5 million? Is he going to opt out and thinking he's going to make more than that next year based on this year's performance? I don't think so. So if you're the Cubs, there's also that incentive in there.
And I think there's also other teams are going to be keeping that in mind. The fact that while it could just be a rental bat type deal, it could also be a 3-year, $80 million, the rest of a 3-year, $80 million deal that they're bringing in. So I think other teams are going to have to be considerate of that, but it just feels to me like that's the most realistic.
Regarding Bellinger, I think the only team that might get a little bit desperate for a guy like him would be the Atlanta Braves, because Acuna is hurt and he's out for the year, and they have high expectations. And I'm just, to be completely honest, they have underperformed, but somehow, some way, they are in the first spot in the wild card. The Phillies are running away with the NL East, and I don't think anyone really expected that this year.
I did not.
So, you look at the Braves lineup last year and how it performed the way it did. This year, their lineup's been down. Even before Acuna got hurt. And so, I know Bellinger hasn't slugged, but the Braves are also in a position where they're trying to win now, man. They're trying to win now, and their GM's been aggressive in the past. So I could see them, not really caring about having to deal with that, the future of that contract,
He's shown that he's not shy about an aggressive trade deadline. Yeah.
So, we'll see how that plays out. Another guy that I think is certainly possible is Nico Horner, who John Morosi was talking about speculation with the Cubs and Mariners on MLB Network today.
But it's like you said, like you're not trading him unless you're actually getting some value in some way, whether that's like some, I don't know what that value would be, because he is on a decent term contract and it's not like untradeable. It's not a bad contract by any means. So right. So I agree with you. Like, it's another possibility.
A one that I actually think really could be one for sure, especially if they're selling, is someone like, Tyson Miller. Or Mark Leiter Jr. if he comes back and pitches well.
Him and Mike Tauchman, assuming health, would probably be another option. Just considering the glut of outfielders they have right now on the team or in the minor leagues.
And I guess a lot of things will have to play out. But if Ian Happ keeps hitting the way he's hitting, and the Cubs get an offer from a team that's not on his no trade clause or that he doesn't mind being traded to, I could see that happening. Maybe Seiya Suzuki as well, but again, with those no trade clauses, it makes it tough. And that's why I said, like in the middle of the show, that like they're not going to just be able to sell everyone like they have in the past. Like Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, those guys were all rentals for other teams. A lot of these guys that we're talking about, they're under contract, man.
The Cubs don't have any of those types of contracts.
They did not set themselves up to sell this season.
Yeah, and that's why when you say realistic trade, it's like Happ and Seiya aren't realistic because they have complete control over where they want to go. If they want to stay here, it's like they have to be convinced to waive that clause.
Right. That said, the Phillies, they need an outfielder, right? Schwarber's in Philly. They're the best team in the National League. Maybe he'd be intrigued.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like until there's any notion that they're willing to waive the no trade clause, it's not realistic because they can't. And that's just it's just semantics at the end of the day. But I'm like, Cody Bellinger doesn't have that. That's why he's more realistic of a potential sell than those two guys. So it's just semantics. But
I think for me, that's why it's been so tough for me to even want to engage with fans on the discourse of buying or selling. What are we doing? Because, well, first off, we've been doing this for 3 years, and I'm just exhausted. And second off, the team's just not set up to sell. So it's just like they're going to have to get creative. If there's anything that I'm looking forward to with the trade deadline this year, is that maybe finally we'll see Jed Hoyer do something bold, do something creative that hopefully, fingers crossed, considering how much I really don't know if I want him making these decisions, hopefully something that helps the team in the moment and in down the road. That's what I would like to happen, considering how the team is set up.
Yeah.
So, we can do, like, I know we're over the hour, but you want to do one diehard?
One or two, yeah. You pick. Surprises.
Okay. Let's do, I think this is the most intriguing one of the three that we put down here in Notion. This is from Radio Maverick 24, who I believe has always been in our voice chat conversations multiple times. He says, what grade would you give Craig Counsell halfway through his first season with the Cubs?
This is a question from the mailbag that I wrote on Friday for diehards.
Yes.
You asked them in our diehard Discord. I answered them on our site in a diehard article. So if you want access to all that stuff, obviously
become a diehard.
Yeah, become a diehard. Go on the site, become a diehard. You get all the other perks. 20% off events, all that other good stuff. You can find it out allchgo.com/diehard, I believe. Mm-hmm. So check it out. So I wrote about this. I answered this question on Friday, and I can't give him less than a C, to be fair, because a lot of it's just guys that were supposed to be their top performers underperforming. Mm-hmm. Dansby Swanson, that does not look like even Dansby Swanson that he was last year, which it wasn't like a superstar offensive player, but a productive offensive player. Right? A lot
better than this, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of their guys, and it's like they don't have. It's just a lot of player underperformance. The bullpen hasn't been great. The starting pitching has been really good, but then for me, it's just like I think giving him less than that, I think giving him less than that to me is just like giving him more of the blame than he actually deserves. But that's like like we talked about, it's like it's for any manager, right? Like managers get too much credit, or managers don't get enough credit when the team is doing really well, and they get too much of the blame when the teams are doing really bad. I think a lot of it is on if you're grading like the team, it's been pretty bad. If you're grading like if you want to grade Jed Hoyer, like if you want to blame the team, you want to blame Jed Hoyer for the construction of the team. You want to blame the owner for putting a budget and not just saying, hey, Jed, go spend as much money as you want and fill out the team. Like, I think I'm not saying that that's what he should have done, but like there's blame to go around, plenty of blame to go around for why this season has gone the way it has. I don't think Craig Counsell is the issue. And so I just think I'm not giving him an A or anything close to that because the team hasn't been great. And that's part of it as well. But like C range seems like, as far as how much blame he actually deserves for what's gone on, I think C range is like right about where it is.
Well, and I would think, if you think about this in terms of wins above replacement, how many games does a manager truly win you or lose you?
There's been one game. I wish I could remember who the opponent was, and I wish I could remember the date, but there was one game, I want to say in April, that I feel like David Ross would have fumbled the bag, and Craig Counsell's bullpen decisions led me to believe that it was a masterclass of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and I think
it maybe I was being delusional in that moment. Of course, I'm always delusional, but because obviously how things of the season have played out. But there was I wish I could remember the date in the game, but there was one game that I can think of.
Because I think in any season, there's always going to be a few that are like that where you can really say, I think the manager, the way he handled this game, his in-game decisions probably won them that game, or vice versa. He goofed this up, didn't use this guy here when he should have, whatever, and cost him a game. Right. But over the course of a season, how many games either way are we talking about? I don't think it's that many, because ultimately a manager has to work with the roster that's constructed for them. And this is kind of playing off of what Ryan said. I think the real criticism is the way the roster is constructed. Craig Counsell isn't going up to bat. He's not taking the mound. Do I think that there are things he could do a little differently? I'd like to see him maybe with some of his lineup construction as far as who's batting where. I'd like to see some changes there. So for that reason, I'm in a similar boat as Ryan. Maybe I'm a little more generous. I'd go as high as like a B-, C+. I mean, it's not terrible.
They're going to start calling you Lil Craig now.
Fernando's calling Ryan Lil Craig right now in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know, and everybody wants us all to say F. I get it. Like that's what everybody wants us to say, but that wouldn't be an honest answer. I don't think this is.
Well, Evil X is giving Counsell a B. But he's giving Hoyer an F.
Well, that's kind of like I don't think the roster construction is that great. There's only so much Craig Counsell can do about that.
And like I'm looking at it, they're basically the real record. Remember last year we harped so much on their record was, or just like expected record versus what it actually was like 8 games below what it was or whatever. They're basically exactly what their expected record is. So like they are what they are.
They thought right? They were. Yeah,
they are what they are right now. They're not scoring. They're not just blowing games and like this team should be so much better. Like I think it should be better, but it's not like the stats and the expected win-loss is saying that. Like they're basically exactly where they're at, and the expected win-loss record ranking, whichever one you're using. So I'm like, if that's what they are, they're playing the players are playing that. Like Craig Counsell isn't playing for them. They're doing that. The way the roster constructed is doing that. I'm like, I just can't.
That's where your problem is.
That's my problem is I can't say like that's Craig Counsell's fault. Like people were using the expected win-loss to like blame David Ross for last season. So if they're exactly where they're at, is it still the manager's fault that the team is the season has kind of sunk the last 2 months?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I just go C as well.
It's like a C+ range, because something like that.
Here are my pros on Craig Counsell. I think he makes good lineups. I don't find myself sitting here complaining about the lineup. Considering the injuries that we like with Tauchman now and where they're at with the 40-man right now, which he doesn't make a decision on, he's been putting out the same consistent lineup over the last like week and a half. And you know what? I look at it and I'm like, on paper, and you look at the back of these guys' baseball cards and what they've done in their career, I can't complain. He plays Bellinger in the 3-hole every single day. Michael Busch, he moved him up in the lineup. Finally, I've been asking for it. He's been doing it consistently. Ian Happ bats 5th. Swanson's in that 6-7 hole, and then the bottom is the bottom. Like, what he's either going to play Miguel Amaya or Tomas Nido, right? Or before that was Yan Gomes, and then PCA. The defense is there, the base running is there, but the hitting hasn't got there. So if there's one complaint, I guess I wish he would just play PCA in the 9-hole to give him some protection instead of him batting with Amaya behind him or Nido behind him. Yeah. And then in the leadoff role, like, for me, the offense was at its peak this year when Ian Happ was leading off.
That's, I think, my biggest issue is that that should
but
be
like,
a leadoff hitter. Yeah.
He's been performing, though. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And he's been driving and running. It's the go-ahead homer in the 8th inning the other day.
Ian Happ, I was looking at like high leverage moments, which he's had 44 plate appearances so far this year. He's at like a 212 WRC plus. Like, he has been incredibly strong in those high leverage moments when he gets all the hate for it.
Right. So I don't hate the lineups. I do think his bullpen management is good. Now, as far as deciding who to put out there for the 9th inning, again, not his fault. Would I have liked to see him be a little bit more aggressive with Luke Little and Porter Hodge earlier, especially when the bullpen was especially when Mark Leiter Jr. went on the injured list and Ben Brown and Jordan Wicks. Yes, I would have liked to see him be a little bit more aggressive with them. And thankfully, he has this last week. And those two are the reasons that they won 2 games last week in terms of the bullpen not blowing the game, right? Mm-hmm. I can't blame him for using Hector Neris in the 9th inning as much because who else was there to use? I think in terms of getting to the 9th inning with a lead, when they have a lead, more often than not, I'm not complaining about what he's doing there. If you're complaining about it, you're probably looking at it in hindsight, like a lot of fans do, right? So I think what's most disappointing to me, and this is why he's a C, is that we were all sold this like Craig Counsell effect. Like, he was going to add wins, like we were talking about, to this team.
The expected win-loss wasn't going to be so crazy.
And it's just not been that. Right. And but at the same time, like, I can't sit here and say that, but then complain about the fact that they didn't do more in the offseason of making this team a real, true playoff team, And
that's, I think, what each of us, the ultimate conclusion is, and I'm seeing, some of the people in the chat, like, we're all kind of pointing at the same thing. The problem with the team is not necessarily Craig Counsell so much as it is the guy that's constructing the roster, Jed Hoyer. So,
Craig Brendel in the chat, dude. Like, I've been bashing Jed Hoyer on this podcast for 2 months, brother. Like, I don't know what you want from me, man.
Like, I think you were bashing Jed all offseason for not making moves in like December or whatever it was. Like,
I'm just trying not to repeat myself. But again, the diehard question was, what would we grade Craig Counsell? Right. I think we're all giving him a fair grade.
Question.
Yeah. It's like the C plus. I don't even disagree with a B minus. Like, maybe I'm being too harsh on him a little bit, right? Yeah. By giving him a C versus whatever. It's
tough to gauge in the first season, halfway through. Yeah.
To me, it's just not his fault. It's just not his fault. Like, you want to blame the roster construction, you want to blame the roster for underperforming. Those are valid. I can't sit here and say like the reason this team stinks is because of Craig Counsell. And the reason this team just hasn't been good for the last 2 months is because of Craig Counsell. I can't say that.
And I know you guys are the ones who are talking to him after the games and stuff, but he's always going to take the fall for whatever. He's never going to answer truthfully to the media. He just isn't. David Ross was the same way. He took the fall for so many things. He's never going to give you what you guys want to hear. I think, and that's part of just being the manager, I feel like. So, like, if people are mad about what he's saying in the postgame, like, half the time it's like, if I were him, I wouldn't even know what to say either. Because if I can sit on my couch or in this studio on the couch in this office and script every single game this dumb team plays, how can I blame him for basically saying the same thing in the postgame every night? I don't know. Like, the guys have to go out there and play better. I think the biggest thing outside of not bringing the most out of a lot of the young guys, I guess, at least on the position player side, he has brought it. We have got the most value out of the pitching side. Mm-hmm. We've seen so much growth from the pitching side this year, and that's the only thing that gives me any optimism for the future. But that hasn't happened, and the fact that, and this is a meatball thing, this is a fan thing, just just one time go out there and get thrown out when there's a bad umpire call or something. Like something. And I that probably doesn't even do anything. But like just one time go out there and just show that you're sticking up for your guy. That's I think that's what I'm asking for.
Right.
So.
And that kind of came up on Saturday. We sort of asked that question. Some of us, after Craig left, we were talking about like part of the problem is the players know the manager really well, better than we do. Mm-hmm. And if they see him do something that is perceived as disingenuous, then he risks losing the clubhouse. Like, so for Craig Counsell, I don't know. I have to go back and look at like how many times he's been tossed for a game and what it has looked like when he's done it. But, you know, if we're looking for I'll go back to the Lou Piniella example.
Say he's not Lou Piniella. Yeah.
If you're looking for him to do that, like, well, the players are going to watch him do that and think like, what are you doing? This isn't who you are. You're not being yourself.
It's not like you ever got thrown out in Milwaukee for that kind of
stuff. Like, I don't, you know, so I think it's tough because we talked about this earlier in the show. You're looking for that kind of thing because the team is doing poorly and you want to feel like I see some fire with them. Mm-hmm. And when you don't feel like you're seeing that happen, it's really easy to look at it and say, oh, they just don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's a growing perception of Craig Counsell. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's accurate.
I don't think it's that he doesn't care at all. I don't think it's that any of these guys don't care.
Right. I don't think that's fair to what they're doing at all.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I do understand a fan perspective, watching what they're watching and arriving at that conclusion.
Yeah. Like I said, I just don't like. I don't the perception. I can understand where like he's saying where fans coming from, but it's just not. It's not that Craig Counsell doesn't care. It's not that the players don't care. It's not even that Jed Hoyer doesn't care. We're just at where we're at right now because of that. That's the way the season's gone.
Right. Okay. Well, we're like 15 minutes over, so I guess we'll just let that be a tease to go read the Die Hard mailbag that Ryan put up on Friday.
Yes.
Become a Die Hard, read the mailbag, join the Discord, ask us more questions that we can do on the show. It helps us with content, especially if this team's just going to continue to hurt me all the rest of the summer. All right. We need things to talk about. Right. So, me, Luke, will be here tomorrow because you'll be at Wrigley. All right. No pregame tomorrow, just postgame. Me and Luke here at our studio. Who knows? Maybe this is when the Cubs sweep the Phillies.
Is this where they go on their run?
Of the season.
Where were you when the season turned around?
They just needed to get to July to turn around. Is what we're saying.
I'll buy it. If there's any reason to watch this team, it's because the starting pitching has been great.
There you go.
Yes.
There's a reason to watch tomorrow. But we'll be here. Thank you, everyone, for being in our therapy hour and 15-minute therapy session today. Corey and Brendan were live yesterday. They talked a lot about the series and the week and how everything is going to. So if you missed that, check that out if you want extra Cubs content for the next 12 to 16 hours. But yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow post game. Cubs, Phillies. July 4th is almost here. So yeah, thanks for Nick for coming on, talking about his experience in Milwaukee. If you're in the chat and you were at our thing on Saturday, the road trip, appreciate you for your support and all that stuff. It means a lot. It really does.
Definitely.
So yeah, thanks for checking out CHGO Cubs Podcast. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.